looking into the forms. Okay. Just briefly, we will go through the what we went in the form. Okay. Okay. Form. Why do we use the form? Basically, like if you want to give some kind of a input, your application, web application wants to take some kind of a input and pass it on to the server for processing. Then you can use the forms. Forms. What things we can provide? We can have text input. We can have password input. Then we can have a list, radio button, check boxes, things like that. And this is one example we saw. Okay. This is the legend. Inside that we have two input entities, title and country, and we have the submit button. The submit button will submit the data to the server, and there are two ways of submitting it: get method and the post method. So this is how user will request the URL, and he will get back a HTML with the form embedded in it, and then he fills the form and he clicks on the submit. Through the HTTP request, the whatever the data that is given here, it will be sent to the server. On the server side, there will be a certain process that will consume this data, and it will process that particular data. One. Okay, this is how the processing happens. Query string. So whatever the data you give in the input elements, that will be sent to the server as a query string. It would be a name and value pair. So that name value pair, if there are more numbers, that the name value pair will be separated by a ampersand. And there are certain characters that cannot be like server doesn't accept that kind of a characters. Those are encoded using URL encoding, and that is sent. Form method. Action is what? Action is the attribute which specify a certain process on the URL which will consume the data on the web server side, and method will tell how you send the data to the backend. One is method is a get, so it is sent as the a part of a URL where it is visible. You can see the what are the parameters that is sent. Post, it is not sent as a URL. It will be sent as a HTTP request header. It will go as a header. So these have advantages and disadvantages. In case of a get, it is very visible. The whatever the parameter you are sending, that is visible. Also, these data will be stored on the local cache, so that data will be retained. In case of the post, data will not be retained. So this is the get example, how the query string is sent, and this is the post method. When we use the post method, this is how the HTTP part of HTTP header, the query string will be sent. Okay, this is the comparison between get versus post. Okay, and HTML elements which are related to form, we can have a button. Okay, it defines a clickable button. That particular one of the button what we saw is a submit. So when we have input type is equal to submit, we will see a button, and what that button will do, it will pass whatever the data that is inputted by the user in the form, that will be sent to the the server as a query string. Okay, and when you are using that is a one kind of that is a predefined button, submit button we have. Other than that, you want to create some other button, you can use the button element. So using button element, for example, you want to say like you want to approve or reject certain thing, you can have two buttons, approve and reject, using this button. And when you are using the button, the click event has to be taken care by something like a JavaScript should be written, that will take care of the click. On the click of the button, what you want to do, that should be defined by you. And we can have a data list. Okay, so the list of items you want to show, that is the data list. Field set, what it will do, it will group the related elements. In the earlier example, the details. Okay, inside the details we have three elements, all those are grouped with a field set HTML element. And form, it will define a container, form container. Input, okay, we can have a different kinds of inputs, like whether you want to have a text input, you want to have some other kind of input, like a drop down you want to have, things like that. So there are different inputs, radio button, things like that. So there are over 20 different types of input you can have with the input element. Okay, in input element has a attribute called the type. Based on the type, you can change the how the data will be taken. Label, every input element should have a certain label, so that you know what needs to be, not what needs to be given, that you can use the label. Legend, so it defines a label for the field set group. So you will have a field set, on top of that you will have a legend, which gives a kind of a like a label for the whole field set, which fields, which elements are grouped together. You can identify that using a label, that is a legend. Option, suppose if you are having a multi-item list. Okay, there are many items that are being shown. Each of the option will be shown using this option HTML element. We are going to see the example. And for options itself, we can create a group. Okay, opt group. And select is another kind of a multi-item list. And text area, when you have the input type is equal to text, it will take one line of input. Suppose if you want to have a multiple lines of input, then you can have this particular text area. So it defines multi-line text entry box. So these are the different controls for the input. We can have text. Okay, when you use the input and you specify type is equal to text, you can have a text input for your web application. If you are having multiple rows of text, then you can use the text area. You want to enter the password, so when you enter, the characters will not be visible, then you can use password. If you want to search something and use as a search string, you can use search. You want to enter input the email, then you can use the email. Telephone number, if you want to take that as an input, you can use it, type as tel. And if you are expecting any URL to be entered, you can take that type as URL. The advantage here, using you might ask like why can't we use the text for getting email? That is perfectly fine. You can say just text and it will take uh, whatever the input is given. The advantage with this built-in email type is it has some kind of a validation standard, how the email should be framed. Whatever is the standard, it will do the validation. You need not provide any validation from your side. Automatically it will come with some standard validation. Similarly for the telephone number and for the URL, there will be inbuilt validations that will happen. Okay. So this examples we saw yesterday. This is a text. Okay, you will see the box like this. This is the label. Okay, and this is this particular text. Then text area you can have in two ways. You can say text area opening tag and text area closing tag, and in between whatever the text you include, that would be like a initial value will be given to that particular element. Now another way of putting the same thing is there is a attribute called as a placeholder. Okay, text area, after that placeholder is equal to whatever the text you provide, it will come as a initial text, and you have closing text area. Then for inputting the password, you will say type is equal to password. When you enter the characters, it will be shown like this. And input type search. Okay, placeholder enter search text. So search text will be shown here, and when you enter certain things, so it will be taken as a search text. Okay, you will see if you want to remove the content, it will show as a cross sign where it will clear off the whatever you have typed. And also you can have a input as a email. Okay, so email must have at least one at the rate symbol. Okay, so if it is not present, just the text is given, automatically without you writing any kind of a validation, it will automatically have some kind of a validation. So it will say please enter a valid email address in if the browser is Opera, and you will see the display like this in the Chrome. And for URL also, please enter a URL. So it will check for some of the standards how the element how the URL is framed. And here if you are taking the telephone number, according to that it will perform the validation. If you are trying to give any character or anything, it will give a error. Okay, today we will see the pattern. So you can specify, these are the already this is some mechanism that is given by the HTML5, where automatic validations are done for some of the standard inputs like email, URL, telephone, things like that. This is uh, when you are using a text and you have certain pattern that you are looking for, then you can specify that. Okay, we will see that. Okay, so this is the example. Rest of the things is same. I have taken the same example throughout. Just I'm adding whatever is required. So here I have added uh, a validation. So you can see here this particular text is this particular input is a text. Okay, and placeholder you are giving some content how the placeholder should be, and also you are using one more attribute called as a pattern. So you want to get the input in certain pattern only. Okay, so what is this pattern specifies it. If you see what is the first one, A to Z, can anybody tell what this pattern is about? Please unmute and talk. What pattern is given here? Regular expression. What is the meaning of inside the square bracket? Inside the square bracket, if I say A to Z, what is the meaning of that? Anybody? What is the meaning of this regular expression? Anybody? Ravi? Okay, so you have to check your regular expression. So what is the meaning of this is like you can have one character between A to Z lowercase, and next one is you can have one digit here, and you can have one more character here. So you can see here letter, number, letter, one number, one letter, then a space followed by a space. Then you can have one number, okay, 0 to 9, one letter, lowercase letter A to Z, and any one number between 0 to 9. That is the pattern this will expect. If this is not the pattern, then it will give a error. Please match the requested format. That is the error it will give. So this is the code I have. I will open new window. Okay, this is the one, forms advanced control. Okay, this represents. Okay, so rest of the things are same. So first one is the form starts here. Okay, I'm using same get method, and action is process.php. Okay, you don't worry about this. This is not at all present. Then field set. Okay, field set starts here. Okay, field set ends here. So this is the field set. Inside that I have legend details. This is the legend, that is the name label given to the field set. Inside that I have one paragraph. This is the first paragraph, and inside a paragraph I have a label called postal that is displayed here. Then I have a input. Okay, this is the input. Type is equal to text, name. This is how it will communicate to the server. So this particular element will be identified by the variable name title, and placeholder. This is the initial text, L hash L space hash L hash. That is what you are seeing here, and there is a pattern specified. So this particular input will take. Okay, this is I have modified. Let me change it back to what it was. A to Z, 9 A to Z space 9 0 to 9 A to Z 0 to 9. So we can have a pattern like this. Okay, if it is in this pattern, then only it will accept, otherwise it will give a error. Then I have next one, label search city, and this particular thing is a what we use a data list. Data list is what? A list of entities. So you can see the data list is defined here. Okay, data list. We'll come back to this particular input. First, see the data list, how it is defined. We have keyword data list space, we specify a id for this data list. Okay, id is what? Unique name by which this data list will be identified. And what is the unique name we have given? id is equal to cities, and inside the data list, so this data list starts here and data list ends here. You can say forward slash data list. Inside the data list I have a few options. Okay, options are the one which will be shown. So Calcutta, Calgary. So I have few cities inside. So this is the data list, and this data list I am attaching to this particular input. Okay, input is equal to what? Type is equal to text, so it is just a text box. Name is equal to what? City. So this is the name of this particular element, input element. And when I say list, automatically it will turn as a drop down list, and list is equal to cities. So what is this cities? Cities is nothing but this id. Okay, so this input will come to know that I have to fetch all these values. So whatever the values, whatever the options are given in this data list, those will be shown as a drop down. Next, after that, I have one more input. Input space type is equal to submit, which will create this submit button. Okay, we'll see that. Okay, first one. Okay, so because we are using a get method, whatever previously you gave, all those things will be saved. So now I have to give a pattern like this. First has to be a letter, lowercase letter. Second needs to be a number, and third needs to be again some kind of a letter. Then again number, letter, and number. This is the acceptable form. This is how whatever the input I have given, it matches this pattern. So whatever the pattern is specified by here, okay, so okay, you can see this pattern. This is the pattern. So it matches what my input exactly matches. So it will accept the input. Now drop down. Okay, inside the drop down you can see all this 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, 6 lists are there. Okay, after that you see, you are seeing another two which are coming from the cache. Okay, because we worked on the same item for the different forms, and we use the same name. Okay, that's why it is showing up from the list, data list. It is getting all the values. Let me select a category and I will say submit. So if I do the submit, we will get the error. Okay, because that process action dot process dot php is not present. So this data, this page will give an error, but we will see the query string. Now you can see the query string here. Excuse me. Title is equal to, this is the pattern we gave. A8V plus is for space. Okay, this is URL encoding. 9G6 and separated by ampersand. The second one, city. Why it is coming as city? If you see here, first one is the title. Why it is a title? So you can see the name. Name is given as a title. So title is equal to whatever value I gave. Next, the name is city. City is equal to whatever option I gave. I gave an option of Calgary. So city is equal to Calgary, you can see. So I will come back. Now I will give the incorrect pattern. So it has to be 9 number, letter, number, right? So instead of that, I will give some one more letter and I will try to submit. Please match the requested format. Or even if I put it same, let us say I give the capital letter here, A. So it will not work because it is expecting only lowercase. If you want to make it work, then you will say A to Z or capital A to Z. So for the only for the first letter I am changing so that it will accept. I will save it. Now earlier it gave a error. Now if I try to submit, it will, okay, it didn't refresh. The reason is like I didn't refresh the form, that's why it is giving error. I will refresh because after making change I will have to reload the page. If I give now A, yes, capital A, capital A, okay, so this is the value and some value for this. Now it is accepted. Okay, so whatever the pattern you regular expression you provide here, it will evaluate the input according to your pattern. If it matches your pattern, then only it will take the input. Otherwise, it will give error. So this is very very useful because some of the validations you can put in the HTML layer itself. So in the form itself, so that it will reduce a burden of taking this data to the server, then validating and then coming back, or getting some bad data. We can use this form to get a very clean data using the proper patterns. Okay. Okay, and next you saw the data list. So this is the pattern attribute, then data list. For data list, what we do, we create a data list, and this data list can be anywhere inside the form. It need not be after this input, it can be anywhere. You first create the data list, okay, and you give the name, ID, and inside that you will have a couple of options here. And once that is done, you can, wherever you want to show it as a drop down, for that particular input you have to set the property of list. List is equal to the ID of the data list that you have created. When you do this, this will form as a drop down list for this particular input. A select list, we already saw one example. We'll see one more. Select element is used to create multi-line box for selecting one or more items. So we can create a multi-line box for selecting one or more items, similar to the data list. That is also a multi-line list. This is also a multi-line list. The options are defined using a option element. So inside select, the options are defined using the option element. Can be hidden in drop down, or multiple rows of the list can be visible. Either you can make it as a hidden, or you can show a couple of rows, okay, that can be made visible. Option items can be grouped together via the opt group. So inside the option itself, if you want to have one more group, let's say country, instead of saying like a country, you want to select some country. Instead of having all the countries in sequence, you can choose to have one more opt group inside, where you will separate them by the continent. You will say Europe, and you list all the countries inside the Europe. Then you will say Asia. Asia is going to be the opt group. Okay, that will not be selectable, but it will act as a group header, a group heading, and under Asia you can list all the countries. We will see that particular example. Okay, so first one you can see select. And for the select, so this is the select element, input element. So right and left hand side, all these are labels, and labels are not shown here. Okay, whatever the piece of code you are seeing, it is for the only the inputs. Okay, select name is equal to choices. This particular element is given a name as choices, and inside this there are three options: option 1, 2, and 3. And each of the option tag will have a closing option. In between, it will, whatever the content, that will be shown as a drop down content option. Okay, we have first and second, and for second option we have a attribute called as a selected. When you have this attribute as selected, when a form is loaded, it will load with the, by default it will select this. Means if user doesn't change this input will be sent as a second. Okay, and we have one more option, third. This is how we use the select. Now in this case, what happens, the rest of the elements, okay, here right now you have three elements, rest of the two will go hidden. Suppose instead of hiding them, if you want to see them, then you specify the property called as a size is equal to 3. Now you can see all the entries that are available, and if there are more entries than this particular size, uh, those will be hidden. Okay, this is the opt group. Okay, we'll come back to this opt group. We'll see the example for this too. Okay, the select list. Okay, form select list, I will open that. So I'm using only plain notepad. There are there are many IDEs available which will help with writing the HTML, which will give a lot of options, like whenever you select particular opening tag, it will automatically create the closing. Please avoid using such IDE which will help with coding. Try to use the plain notepad, where you will learn. Okay, basically later, like once you are expert in doing that, then you can use any IDE which will help with speed up the code. Right now it is learning, so better you use the plain notepad, and you can type all the HTML tags. Okay, this is the example, form select list. Okay, let me open that. Okay, this is a data list. me open this. Okay, we have the select. Okay, select group is there. All right. So this is the advanced select. Okay, this is the one, forms advanced select list. Okay, we will just understand the code first. Rest of the things are same. Inside the form I have get and action is same, field set is there, and the first one we have a label. Label is choices that you can see here, and I am using select size is equal to 3. Okay, and name I have given as choice. Inside that I have first and second. If you see here, okay, second, it is selected. You can see it is selected. Let me refresh this. Second is selected, and there is a third. Since I have given the size as 3, only 3 are seen. Fourth and fifth option are hidden. So if I come here, see, you can see fourth and fifth option. But by default, the first one would be, second one would be selected. So that is using a select. Select will have a property size. You can set the size of the window, how many choices would be visible. This is the name you are giving to this particular select input element. And before closing the select, you will provide all the options that should be shown in this particular element. Okay, so each of the option will have the open tag and the closing tag, and in between whatever the content that will be shown as a choices. And the option has a property called as a selected. When you have that property, that particular element will be pre-selected. Next, so in this example, cities. So cities, what they have done is, see, uh, 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 for the cities, they did not list all the cities in a line. They have a subgroup. Okay, subgroup in the sense like, I want to list all the cities that are in North America, and there are cities in the Europe. So this will be very helpful for the users. So if user is aware of what continent they are looking into, they can directly go to that particular heading, and they can see the choices. So this North America and Europe is nothing but the opt group. This is nothing but a select, but we have used the opt group. So we'll see how to you select that. First one is the label. So this is the complete element. It is inside the a paragraph. First one is the label cities. Second one is the select. So the select was same as previous one, and name given is city, and the first one the name was given as a choice. So here it is a city, and you can see here opt group. Okay, so this is the opening of the opt group label, and inside that you will use a property called as a label. Label is equal to North America. So whatever you put it as a label, that will be shown as the heading. So here you can see, so this is the heading, North America, Europe. Basically I have two opt groups, and this is the closing of the opt group. And I will just show, this is the complete first opt group. Opt group here starts as a North America, and here opt group closes. Inside that I have three cities, okay, as an option: Calgary, then selected Los Angeles and Chicago. Next opt group is, I named it as a Europe, and there are two options, okay, London and Paris. And at the end I have one more like submit button. Okay, input type is equal to submit, and it is inside the field set. All are inside the field set. Now what we will do is, by default it has selected second. Let me select first. We can select any, let us say Chicago, and I say submit. So you can see here choice is first is equal to first, and city is equal to Chicago. That is how you can create the opt groups. Okay. So another, when we are selecting the any choices from the options that are given, uh, what value apart from normally when whatever the option is given, when we select that, the same value will be sent. Okay. For example, in the previous example, I selected first and I selected Chicago, and the first as a text and Chicago as a text is sent back to the server. Suppose if I want to choose a value, instead of sending that particular option, I want to send some other value behind the scene. We can do that using the value attribute. The value attribute of a option element is used to specify what value will be sent back to the server. The value attribute is optional. If it is not specified, then the text within the container is sent instead. So in the first selection, this is how we did, right? We didn't specify any value here. So if you don't specify the value property for the option, because it is optional, if you don't provide it, by default what it will do is whatever content you are given, that will be sent to the server as the selected choice, and it will be sent as a text. Suppose if you want to send a different value, so this is the example here. What we are doing is this code and this code is exactly same, except that for the option I have added the value property. So here what I said, value is equal to 1, value is equal to 2 for the second option, and value is equal to 3 for the third option. When user selects any of this, okay, let us say user selects second, and you submit the form, this value will be given, this value, this number 2 will be sent as a value of the choice. So choices would be sent as a value of 2. We will see with the example. Okay, select list value, select list value. So you can see here, I have only one list, one item list, and one input button, and the label says choices, which is this, and then I have a select element, HTML element, and window size I have kept it as 3, so that the 3 entries are visible, and name is given for this input element is choice, and I have 5 options here. Okay, and first one, option value is equal to 1. Okay, and for the second one, it is selected, option is selected, and also I am setting the value. So I am setting two properties here. One is selected, and second one is value is equal to 2. If this is selected, second is selected, then 2 will be sent as the value. Similarly, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we will just run this code. Now, let me select second. Okay, and I will say submit. So you can see the choice is submitted as a 3. Okay, and what is 3? You choose the third option. So it did not send 3. Suppose if I remove this, okay, if I remove this because it is optional, what value will be sent? Okay, let me reload the page. Okay, now I will send third and submit. Now you can see the value that is sent is third, because you did not specify the value property. By default it will send the content. Next is how to create a radio button to take the input. A radio button is useful when you have only one options to be taken. Like you have either 2 or 3 choices, but you want only one option out of that. You can use the radio button. Radio buttons are useful when you want the user to select single item from small list of choices, and you want all the choices to be visible. Radio buttons are added via the input. type is equal to radio. Okay, so this is the same element input. Inside that, if you set the property of the type is equal to radio, it will show you the radio button. The buttons are mutually exclusive, that only one can be chosen by sharing the same name attribute. So if you have a radio button, the options, they are mutually exclusive. You can select only one. You cannot select two. The checked attribute is used to indicate the default choice. Okay, whichever is checked means whichever is the selected, that would be the default choice. Value attribute works in the same manner as the option element. So this would be similar to option element. We will see an example. So this is the example. So here we have continent. This is the label, and under that we have three radio buttons. And when we are creating a radio button, uh, there would be as many as inputs. Okay, as many number of choices. So here three choices are there: North America, South America, Asia. We have three input of a type radio, all are type radio. And if you see here, name of them is exactly the same. Name is all are where. Suppose if you have a different choice, that will be considered as a different entity. So first one is name, is where. So all the three, the name is where, but what will change the value? So value is equal to 1. If they select the North America, value will be sent as 1. If they select South America, value will be sent as uh, value will be selected as South. If you select the South America, value will be sent as 2. If you select Asia, value will be sent as 3. And if you see here, there is a keyword that is used, checked. That means by default, if you don't make any changes when the page is loaded, this particular South America will be by default it will be selected. Okay, form radio button, this is the page. Okay, and this is the code. So you can see here, rest of the things are same. Okay, field set, inside the field set, I have label continents. Okay, continents you can see, and after that I have used a break. Okay, so that it comes on the next line. Okay, and I have three inputs, all are radio, and all of them having the same name, where. So when all these are having the same name, this data will be assigned to this variable where, when it is sending to the server. If you select the first one, value is equal to 1, value is equal to 2, this is value is equal to 3. Okay, and after each of these options I have a break, so that it will show up in the next line. Otherwise it will show up next to each other, like you will see all these options in one line. If you want to do that, you can do that way. If you want to show it as a on a separate line, you can use the a break. So I will just select one of this. I will say North America. So I will say submit. You can see where is equal to 1. Why where is equal to 1? So where, the first selection, North America. And one more property we can set here is check. Okay, okay, I will reload. So you can see, because I set the checked property for South America, you see by default it is selected. Okay, by default it is selected, and if you submit as is, value will go as 2. Okay, that is the default value. Okay, next one is the checkbox. Now it's already 12:40. We'll take the attendance, and we will cover the checkbox in the next class.